There was a shooting one night, and that kind of changed things for me. Obviously, those kind of events, when they happen right in front of you to your friends, it's very life-changing. And I get a lot of feedback, a lot of my friends that work here, like, how can you do it? How can you come back? It's what drives you to do that. And for me, it's being able to make it out. That was obviously the first thing.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Burnt Chef Journal, a hospitality-specific podcast dedicated to challenging mental health stigma and conversations designed to inspire a new, healthier, happier, and more sustainable hospitality profession. I'm joined this week by Fabian Martinez from Wisconsin in the States, who shares his very unique story of unfortunately being impacted by a shooting within the restaurant, which impacted him and a few of his friends who were working with him at the time. He talks about how this has had an impact on his overall mental health and what he's done to try and take steps to recover from this very horrendous event. And so this is obviously quite a sensitive subject, quite a sensitive topic. And so if you feel comfortable listening to this one, please feel free. We do talk a lot about recovery, and we talk a bit about the impact that that's had on Fabian, but it's a very good episode, and it's something that I'm very proud and proud of Fabian for coming on and sharing as well. If you need support or you'd like someone to talk to, you can head across to our website and to the support pages, and where we'll host a list of very different support mechanisms across the globe so that you're able to reach out and ask for help, whether that's now or later. So please feel free to check those out. And if you are enjoying these podcasts and you'd like to hear more, please do follow or subscribe to these podcasts. And if you get an opportunity, do rate us 5 stars for these, as well as it push us up and allow other people to hear this great stigma-busting content. The Burnt Chef project is proudly sponsored by Lamb Weston, a leading provider of innovative, high-quality potato products created for chefs to help operators thrive both today and tomorrow. Working carefully with sustainably minded farmers and growers, Lamb Weston provides potato solutions for every type of kitchen, from premium British chips and fries to potato shapes, wedges and mash. To find out more, head to lambweston.eu or search your partner in potatoes. So this week I'm joined by Fabian Martinez. Fabian, how are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, doing good this morning. How are you doing today?
Good, man. We've had the jigger and poke things around a little bit. I've been on a tour of the hotel in order to get some decent quality sound, but I'm hoping it sounds silky smooth for everyone else now as well.
Yeah.
Good, man. Good. So whereabouts in the world are you?
So I'm living in Green Bay, Wisconsin, cold north. I'm originally from Texas, though, so South Texas. So it's a little bit of dramatic change for me. Come from dramatic heat to what we're going into winter now. So freezing cold all till probably May or so.
Oh, mate, what does a winter in Wisconsin look like?
Right now, we're probably in the teens, 20s right now, but it gets down below zeros around here, and snow and ice and lasts forever. So,
oh man, and we're
talking from the locals to not go out. That's the best thing. The best advice I give to people is don't go out, stay inside.
And we're talking Fahrenheit, right? So we're in Celsius for us. I mean, that's some serious minus temperatures going on there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's always a culture shock for some of our Indian worker students on our visas. So they come over here and they're just, immediately, once it gets to 30s, they're not even going outside. They stop smoking cigarettes and don't even go outside anymore. Go ahead and go out.
So the cold's actually good for people's health.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to stop.
Yeah, man, good. And what sort of work are you in at the moment in terms of hospitality? Is it a restaurant, hotel? What's this?
Yeah. So I'm the head chef of Cedar and Sage Grow House here. So it's a indigenous kind of native inspired restaurant here in Radisson Hotel, and we have a casino as well. So yeah, it's been cooking my whole life, man. It's been the game. I've been doing this for 17 years now. So it's this is my life, and it's been good to me. It's been good, really good.
What was it that got you into cooking in the first place?
Man, just hanging out with my grandparents, hanging out with the grandparents, smelling food, picking food off the table, that kind of thing. And, My grandparents had two different kinds of cooking. So it was more country, more over the fire, and it was more laid back. So both my grandparents are from Mexico. So it's got a lot of Mexican influence in me. And yeah, that's kind of how I came up, from scratch cooking, and just love it. Just, the end result, the hard work that goes into it, and then you get the end result. And it's just, mind blowing. It makes me happy.
And now you get an opportunity to be able to put that happiness and those smiles on other people's faces, right? With is much of your cooking style still influenced by that now, or have you had to, obviously bearing in mind you're looking at sort of indigenous, have you had to change it, or have you brought some of those in?
No, I bought a lot of it in. Some of the ingredients I'm familiar with, it's just kind of bringing my own twist, and that's kind of what separates us. It makes us stand out a little bit. Is we are native inspired, but it's a lot of influences to go into it, and it's kind of thinking outside the box and bringing all that flavor building with me and everything I've learned. It's good to kind of install it here and see the outcome, and the locals and everyone love it. So it's going great. It's amazing.
And there's so much to learn as well. Like I was chatting when I was in Toronto at the Restaurants Canada event. I was chatting to a lovely lady called Kim, and she was teaching me all about Indigenous population and the eating cultures and the food and all of these great things that have been so massively suppressed for so long in our culture. And we're missing out on so many great ways of cooking and ingredients that we've never even heard or used before. And I think it's a really fantastic cuisine. And I think more people need to be more aware of what actually goes into different styles and cultures of cooking, because we're missing out on so much by just being this sort of Western thought processes, right?
It's that ancient kind of old school kind of cooking and indigenous. I mean, the great thing about indigenous cooking, it translates all over the world. There's indigenous cultures all over the place. So it's another reason why I love kind of modern food nowadays, because it touches a lot of everything. Yeah, a lot of it does get lost in the mix, but a lot of it's coming back and it's coming into fruition. And it's good to advertise and kind of promote a lot of these things that, a lot of these old recipes and old styles of cooking, because it's something that a lot of people aren't used to, like you said. And it's good to see the reactions of people to see that, hey, my family's been doing this for 20 years and now you're doing it this way, and it's amazing. So it's great, because a lot of the recipes that we're doing, a lot of things we're cooking with, they're very sacred to families and very sacred to the tribe. So you're never going to please anyone, but the point is to open people's eyes and kind of realize, hey, we can do so much more with this, and give it out to the public and educate and teach. And it's been fun. That's been the best thing about working here, is, taking a lot of these family traditions and their family recipes and family ingredients, and coming from an outsider from Texas, it's, it kind of got a lot of raised eyebrows at first, but people, once they start to taste, people come around. It's been great for people who are not even from the area too. Being in a hotel, we get a lot of people traveling in, so the people from all over the world, and it's great. Last year we had the German soccer team, one of the national German soccer teams, coming in, and it's just hanging out with the chefs from there. I mean, it was great. Different kinds of lifestyles, different kinds of backgrounds. For me, it was the culture shock was, at lunch or noon, they wanted a beer. And they're like, hey, can we get a beer for lunch? It's just came down to, I'm like, sure, I don't have a problem with it, but it's for Americans, it's a little bit different to drink while you're working or during the job. So it's fun. It's great.
Yeah, it's definitely different culture. We say in the UK, and probably you say it all around the world, to be honest, is it gets to 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you go, it's probably 5 o'clock somewhere, right? And, we do have a very different attitude, I think, to recreational eating and drinking habits, I think. Some good, some not so good, but yeah, it's fascinating. I'm enjoying actually watching you. But obviously, people can't see you, but I can see you, and you can probably tell from your voice how inspired and enjoyable. But your face as well, you're lit up at the moment. You love your job, right? It's fantastic.
I do, man. It's being a chef and this kind of work is very challenging. It's very hard, and I think the challenge that comes with it comes from the individuals themselves. It's being a chef, you're kind of always judged. You're always judged by the last dish you put out. I've seen a lot of chefs kind of go crazy trying to pursue that perfection. It's, that's kind of where I realized, about 5 years ago, it's like that pursuit of perfection is going to just drive you nuts. You can't please everyone. So in order to really, appreciate this career and to, be positive, you just can't pursue that. You got to be realistic and know that yeah, you can't be perfect. We can only be as good as what we put out. That's the only thing we can do. That's the only thing we can limit and try to get better in. Like I said, it's positivity has been the best thing for me for as far as, my own mental health and keeping things in line and keeping my staff positive too. So it's people realize, a lot of my regulars notice, we're a happy kitchen. It's an open kitchen, so there's no hiding. When you come in, you can see everyone. You can see me working, you can see all my guys working. And that's the best feedback that I get, is to know that, I'm cooking with a smile. My guys are cooking with a smile. Yeah, I might be loud at times. I might have that Gordon Ramsay approach sometimes in the kitchen, but it's never, it's never negativity. It's always just good vibes, man. That's what we try to preach here. It's keep all the BS at the door, and when we come in, it's a new day and starting fresh.
And so you reached out to us via social media because you wanted to have a chat about your own experiences with mental health issues and mental illness, and try and help us destigmatize and open up more conversations. So what does mental health or what does mental illness look like, and how has it impacted your career and your life?
It may be one of the reasons why I've stuck to this industry. It's kind of cooks and chefs are kind of the oddballs a little bit, just the mindset, you got to have a little bit of that addictive personality to want to stick with this. So for me, it was, I had a lot of struggling moments growing up in my, family structure and things like that. And so that's kind of what led me into the restaurant industry. I kind of relate to everyone around me, even though everyone was older than me. I was always the young guy in the kitchen, but we all had the same kind of personality and kind of had our struggles growing up. Some people have their struggles at the time, but, for me, it was, that's kind of what set me on the path. And then as of recently, within the last few years, I have gotten PTSD along the way. When I survived a shooting here at one of the restaurants. So prior to our restaurant now, it was another concept, and there was a shooting one night, and that kind of changed things for me. Obviously, those kind of events, when they happen right in front of you to your friends, it's very life changing. And I get a lot of feedback from a lot of my friends that worked here. Like, how can you do it? How can you come back? It's what drives you to do that. And for me, it's being able to make it out. That was obviously the first thing. And the camaraderie you have with your guys, it's for me, when we, at the time of the incident, once, like I said, it happened, 10 feet in front of me, and, the longest 7 minutes of my life. It's also one of the darkest times too. So for me, that whole, after, taking it in and kind of processing was kind of big. And I'm grateful to have a child, and she was 9 months at the time. So that kind of helped me stick to some kind of normality, but it's rough. And I've been around friends that have survived things like that. I come from some neighborhoods in South Texas that aren't, too good, so, shootings and things like that weren't typically new to me, but to see that close and to see, your friends go down in front of you. Yeah, that's kind of what changed it. And for the first few months, it was a dark time. It was, those 3 months went by like that, you don't realize what you're missing out when you're just in that shadow and that darkness. So, like I said, like having a family, having a very supportive family, and having a daughter, it's what kind of drove me. And once Cedar and Sage, the restaurant, once we started going to the new concept and ideas, and that's kind of what brought me back, because the whole Cedar and Sage element is very big in Native culture. So burning of sage, burning of cedars, it's about cleansing. It's about fresh starts and positivity and accepting what happened, accepting the change. And so I was, I've been through a couple of rituals here in the tribe, and I have, I'm kind of spiritual. I'm not too religious, but, that smudging ceremony was life-changing, hearing the drums, getting the scent of the sage and the tobacco burning, and the chants. Like I said, I'm not a spiritual person, but man, you can feel it. You can just feel the energy. You can just feel the positivity coming from the tribe, and the support too. And yeah, when we opened, and coming back was definitely part of the healing. It was definitely part of the process of, like I said, now, there's 4 of us that were here that made it out, that still working here, and only 2 of us wanted to come back. And yeah, the first couple of weeks were hard being in that restaurant and silence and things like that. But once it gets going, it comes back to business and it comes back to life. And we had a different kind of culture coming in, and it was a very positive coming in. Before, it was, there's a lot of hurt, a lot of sadness, and from everyone at the hotel. It wasn't just in the restaurant. Everyone in the whole staff as a whole felt it. It was just a weird kind of gloomy kind of time for a while. And once the restaurant opened and became part of it again, it was, I realized it was the right thing to do. It wasn't about business. It wasn't about getting it open and making money again. It was about coming back, doing it right, focusing on the positives, and just building something that we can be proud of. And that was something that, had me sold immediately. And like I said, my biggest thing going into it was like, all right, I got to approach this up. I can't sit back. I can't just dwell. I can't be in my head. It's about going straight up and just going back at it and doing what I do and doing what I love. And it was so bad just being at home for 3 months. I was like, I had nothing to do. I was cooking meals for the kids all the time. Just like, all right, what can I do? What can I do? Finally, I came up and luckily there was one other girl who was with me that night who's, worked on the line with us. She made it out as well. And she's one of the most loyal people I've ever met in the kitchen. And she followed me around and she came back, and it was kind of a mutual kind of rehab for us. For us, rehabilitation, we're restaurant people. We get better by the people around us. And being in the shits, kind of just getting it done. And that's really what motivated us to do it. And, now we're going into year 3 now. So every year it's a blessing, obviously, but, every year that we keep this place open and this place keeps thriving, it's night and day from the way it used to be to now, just as far as an overall work culture and mentality. And so that's kind of why, I'm a huge supporter of everything that the Burnt Chef Project is. And it's it's why I want to reach out and see what I can do here in America as far as other chefs and what I can do to relate. And if there's anyone that if I can help anyone, that's what I would love to do. Because, like I said, not everyone who was here that night is doing as well as I am or other people. It's a struggle. It's a daily struggle. It's nothing that leaves. But I feel like, we're doing things the right way and keeping it going, man. Life is great, man. It's a weird thing. It's a weird kind of time.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I can't imagine. I genuinely, I can't imagine. I'm trying to empathize, but being British for a start, we have cases of things like shootings, etc., but we don't have it regularly. I just can't even begin to imagine the impact that it would have had on yourself and your colleagues and the business and the wider community. It sounds fucking horrible, man. I'm sorry that you went through that. I really am. That's not cool.
Think about it. Here in America, it's just a common thing. It's sad to even think that at this point, but shootings and mass shootings around, it's over the last, 10, 15 years here in America, it's just been escalating and getting more and bigger and bigger. And random, as random as people may think it is, it's something that's an issue, a big issue here in America. And, I'm not gun rights and all that, it's a political thing. I'm from Texas. I'm big on responsible gun ownership, but it's a huge issue here. You see it every week on the news, you hear about them, shooting at the mall, shooting here, school shootings. And it's just, luckily, I know, being in the UK, you'll have a lot of stricter gun laws, and, it's something that's definitely needed here, but it'll be some time. It'll definitely be some time for that to happen.
Yeah. I truly believe in large movements. I think the movements can happen. And I think that there will be a time, and I'd like to hope that it wouldn't be too far away where actually these things are brought back under control again, because I don't know how much you want to talk about the event itself, but for anyone to be able to walk into a restaurant with a weapon, a firearm, it shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be allowed at all. And it's fucked. That's so fucked. So, I mean, the event understandably would have a massive impact on yourself and others who were part of that day. What was it that led you to finding out about your diagnosis of PTSD? How did that come about? What were the first signs and what did you do?
The first signs obviously were not being able to sleep, night terrors, screaming in my sleep, kind of yelling in my sleep, those are obviously key signs. And, I was lucky I was able to get some help and talk to the right kind of people, and it helped for a little bit. Counseling and things like that. It depends on the type of person, individual, I believe. Some people need regular counseling and regular kind of therapy to kind of keep in it. Some people have to be medicated. The thing about trauma like this, everyone accepts it differently. And so, the way I handle things versus the way some of my other colleagues handle things aren't very similar. Some people, for me, I've been around drugs and alcohol around, my whole lifestyle being in the industry. So my mom was an alcoholic. So that was the one thing I knew I didn't want to go down. You don't want to go down that booze path. You don't want to go down that dependency kind of mindset. And for me, that was, that's why I was like, I at first, the counseling and talking sessions really kind of helped me understand what was going on, because I always had some kind of, it wasn't really PTSD, but I had some kind of domestic, family abuse back in the days from like my mother's side and things like that. So that helped. That kind of played a little bit of a factor into some of the issues I had coming into this. So for this one, it was a little bit different. And like I said, I'm grateful that for me, my rehab, my therapy is in the kitchen. That's always been my output and my way to relieve myself. And something about being in a kitchen with a knife and fire and building something from nothing, it just helps the focus, helps the mind really. And like I said, I have friends who I wish would be a little bit better, but it's, like I said, you should never judge. You should never say, hey, I'm doing good. Why aren't you doing good? That should never be that kind of dialogue, or the kind of mindset, because like I said, people come up, have different backgrounds and different kind of life experiences. So some people already had some mental issues before this. So this event, we all experienced the same event, but had a different outcome. No matter what happens, or we're always going to be tied together through this traumatic event. And it's good that we have each other to lean on and kind of have that support system, because without it, who knows? It's, family and friends are great, but the ones that were there with you are kind of the ones that you're always gonna have that bond no matter what. And I'm grateful that I have that bond with, my colleagues, because, some of them are living, one of my friends, Dan, for instance, he's one of the only survivors that got shot, so he's doing amazing. Seeing him, that day, we didn't think he was going to make it. When to see someone get shot point blank in the face, that's not good. It was very positive to see him, because he's a musician. He's an amazing musician, amazing singer, amazing guitarist. And to see him being back in his element and seeing him doing his music, it's so great, because for a while he couldn't talk for a while. He had tracheotomy and couldn't really do his normal things. And to see him now, it brings joy, man. He was a little shit too, just being he's a Boston guy, just a Boston hard accent, hard ass kind of guy, and just a good guy too. Love music, and it's good, man, because those are the kind of things that make me really happy. And to see my boy Dan doing this thing, it's amazing, man.
Best of luck with his recovery. It sounds like he's very lucky, but also very determined, and his recovery sounds like it's going well. So I'm pleased, man. I'm really, really pleased from that perspective. If you're enjoying this week's episode, consider heading over to our website and supporting our ongoing work in destigmatizing mental illness and creating a healthier, happier, and more sustainable industry by purchasing some of our branded merchandise. We have a whole range of t-shirts, hoodies, chef's jackets, well-being journals, plus a whole host more available on Worldwide Dispatch. All funds raised from sales of these items go towards free-to-access e-learning content, as well as providing free support systems and help for those who may be experiencing difficulty with their mental health. From your experience, I mean, the really nice thing about this conversation is that hospitality is that safe point, right? It's that saving grace. It's that family. It's that looking out for each other and understanding that you've always got someone else's back. And I think that's really refreshing to hear. And that's what we'd like to hear more of. And we want more stories like this, whereby people are, hospitality has been the positive and the great thing in their life. But I guess from my perspective and from your experience of working in hospitality over there, are there any particular things that you'd like to see change over the next 5 to 10 years or improve in any way, shape or form? Is anything that's on the top of your mind that you think, yeah, do you know what? It's great, but I reckon it could be greater if.
This whole movement that you guys have is honestly what I've been looking and hoping to see spread out here, especially here in America, because, like I said, gun violence is big, but drugs and alcohol are just, even worse around here. I've seen it with my own eyes, very talented people just go down that spiral. You see them 1 year and 5 years down the road, you're just like, just night and day, man. It's just, and the thing is, I don't feel people, chefs, anyone really in this industry feels confident or feels like they can talk about these things without being judged, and it's that stigma that, I feel like it goes in the other industry, but especially in the hospitality industry where suck it up kind of mentality, suck it up. Oh, well, everyone's messed up, kind of thinking, it's just shouldn't be that way. People should feel like there's no judgment at all. They should feel in some kind of safe place to talk about these kind of things and address the issues, because they're only issues until we work on them and resolve these issues. It's not a permanent issue. None of these things are permanent. I just feel like people just don't feel safe and don't feel like they have that platform to do that or to communicate. And that's why, even it's my social media right now. And at this time, it's huge. There's so many amazing positive things that could be done with social media, and especially like with this movement, because like I said, scrolling across and I went down that rabbit hole and just went down the whole Burn Chef project, and I was like, holy shit, like, how have I missed this? How have I not seen this? And it caught me in right away.
Early days, man. Early days. We've only been going for, the photography campaign was May 2019, but I guess we really started getting into the flow in February 2020. So It's only been coming up 4 years.
Yeah.
So it is really, really early days, and we've got a lot of work to do to get through. There's estimated 72 million people worldwide in hospitality, and I don't even know what segregations of hospitality that includes. Is that just back of house and front of house, or is that night porters? Is that housekeeping? Is that maintenance? Is that all of the other fantastic individuals that make this industry fucking ace? Yeah. And we've got to get together and make sure that we can reach every one of them, because the message is strong, but I think that the consistency and the shared voice will just help others to speak out and to build a future that doesn't necessarily work on that, which is what you've just said. It's like, well, that's just the way that hospitality is. Like, yeah, we're all messed up. Yeah, it is what it is. You do the 80-hour weeks. It's fine. That's exactly what hospitality is. No, it's not. And it doesn't have to be, unless, of course, you want it to be and it works for you, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I think, in order for us to change, is we need people like you, people like myself, people like our other 160 odd ambassadors globally, team, people listening to this now, to actually stand up and go, what one thing can I make different? What one thing can I change? Is it the fact that I sit down with someone and have a coffee and just ask them how their day is? Is it we look at workload management and just see how people are feeling and feel if they've got enough support and time to do the work that they need to do? It doesn't have to be revolutionary. It's just that, like your recovery, like getting back to work, putting one foot in front of the other and checking in with yourself and going, are we on the right path? Are we doing well? Fantastic. If I've got more energy, what's next? And you and I talking now, hopefully you'll go off the back of this and you'll go to your team and be like, I've just been on the Burnt Chef project. And they're like, what the hell's the Burnt Chef project about? You're like, oh, well, let me tell you. And then, hopefully that just reaches one more person.
Oh, yeah.
What sort of mental health support do you guys have at the moment within the organization?
So luckily, being in a corporate structure, we do have what's called ERC. So it's essentially like therapy at free therapy anytime. There's always, they'll help you with anything, anything from drug abuse to depression to suicidal thought, anything, anything in between. Just a free resource that we have to, if you really need the help, it's there. That's another thing too, is especially chefs and kitchen people and, background people, is even though the resources are there, even though it's a confidential, it's free, it's all the above, they still feel like that little stigma that, oh, I'm weaker if I go find help, or I'm not as mentally strong as I should be if I go seek help. Or it's like, no, that's not the case. It's thing about cooking. It's that all around. You gotta be sound mentally, physically, all of it. It's to be successful. You can't just be missing one here or one here. You really have to be realistic, have realistic mindset, have realistic goals, and just try to achieve those. And don't stop until you do. Thing about it is you have to be determined. You can't just be let down because you're down for a couple of days. You can't sink into that mentality. Just because that may not be the best right now doesn't mean it's going to be that way forever. We as individuals have that power to determine our own fates. Everything we do is decision based and falls on us. So we as individuals have any and every opportunity to make ourselves better. It's there. It's just we have to go find it. And luckily, it's people like you, people like me, especially ever since I've talked about doing this podcast with you guys. I've spread the word to pretty much anyone and everyone. So it's, I was in Virginia for 3 weeks, helping a hotel out there, and being able to spread the word out there. And hey, have you heard of this? Have you heard of this? No, get on your Instagram, follow this. I mean, it's like trust me, guys, this is and then them being 5 minutes into, they're like, holy shit. All right, cool. Like, where the fuck has this been our whole lives? So that's why I love that. You're based out of the UK, and it's a worldwide thing, and it's not just sourced in Europe. It's not just a European thing. It's not just whatever. It's everywhere because we all have the same issues. We all do the same kind of job. We're here to please others, and sometimes in that mindset, we tend to forget about ourselves. And I think that's a huge thing. And I think once we can get around that stigma we can't, start trying to please everyone. We got to take that little amount of time to kind of focus on ourselves and get back to normality and stay in tune, man.
100%. Right. Honestly, the interesting thing. So we talk about stigma, right? And you talk about people not wanting to get help because it might be an admission of weakness, or, perhaps we might be seen as viewed other. So I've recently started to access therapy again myself, because I've noticed that actually my thought processes have started to slip into quite negative thought processes, quite pessimistic. Now, even just saying this out loud, I'm checking in with myself and I'm thinking, God, I can still feel that stigma creeping in. I'm thinking, well, what happens if people, what would people think? But you know what? Fuck it. That's exactly the reason why we exist. But the interesting thing for me is that during that we're on the run up to that first therapeutic session, I had all of those same feelings and thoughts, all of them. And, as someone who does my job and in the realms of the work that we do, it just shows that our voices need to be louder, and stigma is going to take a bit of time to try and address and try and tackle. It's hundreds, it's thousands of years old. And if you feel stigma or you feel ashamed by thinking about reaching out for help, don't let that put you off. Understand that feeling is not a feeling that you can necessarily always control. It's built into us as society and as years and years of being told that it's not the right thing to do. So understand that is a feeling that you may get, but then also being prepared to move through that. And trust me, once you get past that first bit and you reach out to a friend or a family member, or you go through that therapy session for the first time, stigma won't be as strong anymore, and every single time it'll be less and less and less. And even me, the founder of the Burnt Chef Project, I still experience stigma, but the difference is that we won't let it stop us. That's the key. Yeah. So we're coming to sort of the end of our time, but you mentioned something earlier in our conversation, and I wanted to just dig a little bit deeper into that, because I'm not a religious chap myself, but I do have become quite spiritual over the last few years. And I do believe in energies and connection and the power of tribe, and just being around people who feed you. They're sustainers, not drainers, right? So they're like radiators. They give off warmth. They don't suck it from you. So talk to me about your experience of that sage ceremony. Like, what were you thinking when you went into it? And what was it that suddenly changed or even increased your thought process on the benefits of that particular ceremony for you?
Yeah, this ceremony happened, I believe, a week after the incident. So this was kind of like a healing process outside of the hotel, and kind of like a memorial, kind of essentially. But so just being around the people, that I've worked with my whole time, like the whole time, seeing some of my friends' families, the guys who didn't make it, like their families were there, Dan's families were there. So being around and, seeing the pain, the sorrow, obviously as a human, you could feel that, but then once the drums get going and once the singing gets going, once the smells get going, that's like next level shit, man. I grew up Catholic, but I got away from it, a little bit as I've gotten older. But man, I've never felt anything that powerful in my whole life. I've been in massive churches with big organs and, you get those kinds of feelings. But I mean, this one was like, it hit on every level, man. It was like emotions. So you could hear the physical from the drums. You could feel it in your body, hearing the songs and hearing people crying, and the thing is too, is like this incident didn't just affect us in the hotel. It affected the tribe. These are native lands. These are lands that, are very spiritual and very powerful lands. And for like something like that to happen on their lands, that's big. That's very dark. That's something that's why the burning of the sage and and cedar and tobacco, that's it's about getting cleansed. And so standing there, and they offered up anyone, if anyone wanted to come up to be part of the ceremony to get cleansed, come on up. So you essentially stand in front, they're chanting with you, and they're bringing the sage and they're cleansing your whole body with the sage and the smoking. I'm standing there just like this, and my eyes closed, and man, it was something about that, man. Just I could feel my conscience and anything that I had going on, and those negative thoughts just felt released and cleansed. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is something that they've been doing forever, and this is their way of healing and their way of moving forward, and obviously cleansing. So it was an amazing feeling. I've never been part of a cleansing ceremony like that. I've seen them before, but to be part of it and to be right there with the medicine man and guys, being the drums and singing, and it was amazing. If you ever get a chance to be part of it or see one, you'll get it, feel it immediately. Because just those drums, man, I love music and I love all that, but hearing them rock those drums, I'll never forget it. And there's just gives you goosebumps, man. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
Oh, I would love to have like an elder or something on the podcast and just learn more about that. I'm truly very curious about all of that from all cultures around the globe. We talk about mindfulness and meditation, and it's been used in most countries for thousands of years, and only now as a society are we going, oh shit, it's actually good for you. Yeah. Oh man, what? And it's like we're starting to get to this mass adoption of things that we should have done, and a mass adoption of like thousands of years ago, rather than suppressing these sort of things. And so I'm incredibly curious, and for sure, man, when I'm over there next year, I will be seeking out these sort of experiences, because we haven't even scratched the surface of what we understand about people and bodies and brains just yet. I think there's so much that science doesn't know that you can't necessarily put a finger on. You can feel it, and that's what's important, right? Is that being able to feel and experience stuff. So that's fucking cool. So in terms of your diagnosis of PTSD, if you were to say anything to anyone out there who may be struggling with sort of similar experiences, not necessarily caused by the same thing, but maybe experiencing things like night terrors or heightened anxiety or panic attacks, etc., what would be the first bit of advice that you would give to them in terms of getting them the help that they need?
Well, first, they're not alone. This isn't just something that they're going through. And I think being able to talk to, you don't necessarily like medical professionals, just someone. I think just talking to someone. I think just throwing the dialogue out, starting the dialogue, and use platforms like social media and the right way. There's resources out there. Some of them might not be as easy to find for people. Maybe not. People might not know where to look or where to find these resources. So I think the first step is just talking. That's the first one. And then just realizing that something is wrong. That something may or may not be wrong. So there's so many levels of depression, and I think once people can start to realize that, hey, I'm not alone, something's going on, I should talk to someone, or maybe talk to someone, that's then they're on the right path. Then there's ways to heal, and then you have options. When people close themselves off and from anyone and everyone and think that they have to handle it themselves, that's when things get worse. And it's very easy to go from kind of middle level to strict decline. It's so easy. And I think, like you said, it's just being honest with yourself and just knowing, hey, I can get better. There's resources, there's outlets. This doesn't have to be this way. And I think that's the biggest step. The first step is always the hardest, but it's always the biggest step, and it's the most necessary step. So step out of that darkness, step out of that box, whatever it is, and find the light at the end of the tunnel. That's really what it is. There always is. It's there. We might get lost in the process, but we just have to find it, and it will be there. And that's the one thing I always, anytime I preach, if I can, to anyone, that's one thing I do preach. It's like, all right, yeah, it's dark. It's maybe fucking shitty right now, but if you want, it will get better. It's about wanting to get better and wanting to find people that you can relate to get better together. I think getting better together with other people or someone with the same mindset helps, because I mentioned earlier that one of my cooks, Sam, who came back and followed me at the shooting, having her there was really big for me too, because it was someone that was there with me and who made it out with me and had the balls to come back with me to say, hey, let's do this. I'll help you start this restaurant. Sure, let's do it. Okay, let's do it, man. So that's kind of where I see her as like really, really close companion, because I know she lives in Vegas right now. But if I were to call her right now and say, hey, I'm opening a restaurant, come over here. Sure, I'll be there in 2 months. I already know the mindset, because that's the kind of bond we have, because it's, it's that trauma bond. And I say it, it's a weird kind of term, but it's true, because like I said, no matter what happens in our life, no matter where we end up in this world, me and those other people that are there, we're always going to have that bond, no matter what. Nothing's going to separate us from what happened. And I think as long as we have people we can depend on and we can open up to, we'll be fine. And like I said, it's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Mate, what an absolute blinder to finish off on. I would thank you ever so much for coming and having the courage to talk about your experiences and story. And I appreciate it's, no amount of time will ever make it any easier. But yeah, hopefully other people hearing this conversation today and the unique experiences will just reach another person who out there thinks perhaps they are alone, but you're not, and there is light and you can move through this. And I wanted to personally thank you very much for your time and energy and investment and experience. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is a great talk. I'm a huge supporter of the movement, and I will be for as long as I can, and I'll spread the word as many people as I can to get if we can change at least one person, 2 people, then I'm fine. I'm good with that, and that's just that's the bare minimum for me, so.
Man, it sounds like you've got makings of an ambassador already. So I'll send you over the details afterwards. We'll get you signed up for the process if you haven't already, because goddamn, we need more people.
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of going through the training videos and all the videos and all that. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I can't wait to welcome you on board, brother. So thank you ever so much.
Yeah, thank you too, man. Every time. When you come to America, let me know. Come visit.
For sure, yeah. Although apparently getting around America is not quite as easy as going from South England to Scotland. Yeah. Someone was like, you do realize how long it takes just to drive across one state, don't you? And I was like, oh, fuck. I'm going to need some time out there. Yeah, I will do, man. Thank you very much.
Sweet, man.